All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Rebound with Resilience, a podcast dedicated to raise your resilience, mindset, and mental wellness. And we have a special National Day broadcast today. I know it's not National Day when you listen to this, but we are filming this on National Day. I have with me Alvin Yong. Hi, Alvin.
Hi there. Hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
yes, it's great. It's great to have you on this podcast. I definitely do want to give an introduction to the guests first, before I allow you to speak. All right. So
Okay.
I'm just going to introduce Alvin to all of you. Okay, I want you to imagine, right? I mean, I believe all of you have met people in your life that you meet them for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe an hour, but they leave a very lasting impression. They leave an impact on your life. Alvin is one of those people. I met him just for a brief period, but he has made an impact on me, and he makes an impact on a huge number of people. Right? He's you can't really classify what he does. He's a Renaissance man, you can say, right? So he's a man of many passions. He's very curious, very creative. He has many rich life experiences. He runs businesses and social enterprises in multiple countries. He has gone to developing countries to set up systems, education. He has traveled to Africa, to Southeast Asia. And basically what he does is he's an architect of life. Okay, later he'll share with you what that is. He designs his own life and he helps other people design their lives. All right. And above all, he's someone that is extremely kind and compassionate. And the people that he leads, the people that he works with really loves him, really respects him. And so today we are going to explore that. All right. We're going to explore leadership. We're going to explore culture and designing your life. Okay, so I'm so fortunate, Alvin. I hope I did you justice with the introduction.
Flattered. Thank you very much for a very kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to be with you on the National Day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So let's begin. Maybe let's start with a warm-up question. All right, since designing your life is something that is central to you, right? What does it mean to design your life?
It's a good question. And actually, it's a fundamental question for every living human being, I think. Yeah. You see, in the animal kingdom, human is the only species born with consciousness, right? We are capable of making conscious choices. And I think that's a divine gift that is bestowed upon each one of us. You see, we are not ants, right? In the ant colony, either you're born as a queen ant, and all you do for the rest of her life is to lay eggs. If you're born as a male ant, all you do is mate with the queen and then die after that.
They're defined by a role.
You're defined by a role. Or you're born as a worker ant, and all you do is laborious carrying food and transporting things around. And so the entire life of animals are programmed in from the day they're born. And then they live by instinct. It's time to migrate, they migrate. It's time to, if it's hungry, they hunt, right? And so all animals live by instinct. Only human has that free will to kind of design a life, or rather live a life by his own design, I would say that. Yeah. So the question is whether are we consciously designing our life, or are we handing over the choice to others to design our life, right? So one way or the other, we are living our life, right? So I would say that it's really a matter of how conscious we are in making every choice and making every decision, big or small, right? Moment by moment, that will then lead on to an expressions of life in a way that you would like it to be fully expressed in our short lifetime.
You gave an analogy as well, right? The last time you met me about a seed. Everyone is a seed to a tree, to a massive oak tree or any tree. There's potential to blossom if we just use that seed and we nurture it and water it. That potentiality. I remember you saying in the video.
Exactly.
And why is it important? Like, why is it important to design your life?
You see, like what I say, we are not an ant that is born to be a worker bee. a worker ant or a queen ant or male ant or whatever ant, you know.
Yeah.
So when we are born, we are born as a seed with certain potentiality. And no one is there to tell you that you should be a ballet dancer, or you must be a doctor, or you must be a businessman or whatever. So we have that opportunity to maximize and unleash our potentiality. The question is, do we born as a seed, and do we live a life that allow it to gradually sprout and then to a full blossom, right, full flowering, before we wither and die off in our short lifetime? So the actualization of our potentiality is not given, right? We are born as a seed with potentiality that is given. That is the divine gift that we should not be taken for granted. But whether we actualize our potentiality is by choice, by design, by whether we want to consciously do that, or we can born as a seed and also die as a seed. And that will be, in my humble opinion, a little sad. You know, in other words, is that you did not blossom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that resonates with me very deeply because I want to live life on my own terms. You know, I want to be able to create something that I'm proud of, something that leaves an impact on other people as well. And
Yeah.
definitely throughout this podcast, you will explore how your experiences, how you eventually led to you designing your life and how intentional you are with that. We're going to talk about that and maybe leave the audience with some things to think about. So the next question would be, before we talk about your businesses and social enterprises, right? I'd like to ask, right, what were your influences growing up that shaped the way you think? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because when we are very, very young, we can't make the conscious decision by ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why environment is so important. So certain environment would condition us or program us or domesticate us, right? Uh, for instance, if you grow up with parents telling you, you know, money is evil, for example,
Yeah.
and you would have that programming, and you carry that programming to a large portion of your adult life,
Oh,
and
yes.
then you will lead with you will get the consequence of that programming. You get what I mean? You'll be
Yes.
constrained or restricted and curtailed by it, right? On the other hand, if you get positive influences, and I would say a few key events, of course, if I now look back in my own younger life, you know, certain influences has colored the way I am now. I was 7 when I lost my mother to cancer, right? Now, when you 7 years old is a very young, impressionable age, but then old enough to know that, you know, death means that it's a permanent bye-bye, you know, right?
Sure.
Um, so one of the earlier consequence was a self-pity mindset, that I look at my friends, you know, they have the mother hugging them, but I don't have, you know, I didn't have. So in the very, very early, there was a certain amount of self-pity, which is a negative energy, right?
Yeah.
So every influence is a form of energy. So either the energy can be tuned consciously to some positive impact, or to tune negatively into a limiting impact, right? But I would say that eventually I kind of like break out of that. And what that major event impresses upon me from a very young age is that life is so precious and yet is so fragile. We really should not take life for granted that you will be there forever. And with that realization, I then choose consciously to live my life full, moment by moment, and so that I can be ready, right, to live, right? I can be ready to die empty, you know, live empty, and without any regret. So that become one of the major influence, and I tend to like to embark on something with wholeheartedly, with live by the moment kind of concentration, and then once it's done, you know, I can move on to do other things. So
I
that kind
see.
of make my life, one of the positive things from this influence is that it makes it very productive, very efficient in one way. Yeah, this is one of the things.
Sure.
And another major influence is this character called Leonardo da Vinci. You use the word Renaissance man,
Yeah.
right? He is truly a Renaissance man, right?
Yeah.
He's a major influence that shaped my early thinking. I think I must have been about 8 or 9 years old when I read about Leonardo da Vinci's story from a pictorial storybook. Right? I was so impressed that this man is multi-talented. I mean, he's known not just for his famous painting, but he's famous for sculpting, science, engineering, anatomy, architecture. So he's unquenchable. I would say his curiosity, unquenchable curiosity.
Yes.
Right, really unquenchable, because the curiosity stay in him and kind of like lead him to multidiscipline, because he's forever curious about things,
Right.
And also because he's so imaginative, he become a big inventor. And you could well say that is inventive imagination in that sense. So that was the two words that was used to describe him in some of the documentary and some of the books: unquenchable curiosity and inventive imagination.
Wow.
And that was really powerful, and it kind of gave me that notion, that possibility that in a single lifetime, in a single human, it is possible to be good in many things. You don't need to curtail yourself. If you are accountant, you do only accounting. If you're engineer, you do only engineering. So that multidisciplinary curiosity really colors up my life. Because today I'm curious about many things, and I have this thinking that when I think about Leonardo da Vinci, if you can do it, I can do also.
Right.
So that was a major influence.
Okay.
And the third major influence to me in my early age was LKY, our founding father, Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. I think there's a certain madness in people who are visionary.
Yeah.
And if you look back, Singapore 55 years ago, I mean, this is National Day celebration still, right? 55 years ago, Singapore, when it gained its independence, if you look at it logically, if I were born that year, I think it's quite impossible to survive.
Yeah.
But LKY's courage to imagine a better Singapore, right? And his tenacity to hold on to that visualization and soldier on step by step, and his ability to influence other people to march the long march together with him, and gradually in a methodical way, transforming Singapore from an impossible survival state to where we are today. I think that is really inspiring. And I hope to live a little bit of my life on the shoulder of such giants in that sense. Yeah, so these are just three major influences I can think of at the moment now to just kind of share with you and your audience. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that, Alvin. Yeah, I mean, I resonate with the idea of having heroes in your life, because they're like, they're people you model yourself after, and also gives you that spark of genius. Like, if they can do it, I'm cut out from the same blood. I'm of the same spirit. And like you said, with all that seed, right? And so that really inspires me as well. Certain people that I read about their lives and how they demonstrated resilience and demonstrated that tenacity. And I can say also that you're one of those people that has inspired me over the last.
Oh, no. I'm flattered by that comment.
No, because when I met you, I was at a stage where I was also having multiple commitments, and then just seeing how to figure out things. But I think you showed me that like you said, being present and being able to design your life. You don't need to limit yourself to one thing. You need to be focused, no doubt, but you don't necessarily need to limit yourself your whole life to just one thing. So thanks for sharing about that. I think there's one more thing I want to explore a bit, because the last time I spoke to you, you did mention that you started to get drawn into, I would say, developing nations because of a trip you made to Nepal as an NJC student in 1984, and you made the trip because the teacher actually fought for you,
Yeah.
right? I'd like to share, yeah, maybe share a bit about that.
Oh, the year was 1984. That was another major influence in my life. There's so many major influences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a year where National Junior College, where I was a first year student, um, second year student. Sorry,
Mm,
yeah, 1984. Yeah, where we had the first Himalayas expedition to Nepal
mm,
in among the junior colleges. Yeah, so 30 students and 6 teachers went on the expedition. Of course, prior to that, there were lots of hundreds of students signing up, applying for the 30 places. Yeah.
yeah.
So I was one of them. And actually, I was very skinny at that point in time. I'm still skinny nowadays, but then I
Mm,
was very skinny now at that point in time. So when the college arranged for us to be kind of assessed by a doctor, the doctor looked at me. The perception of this doctor is that I was so skinny. I will not be able to hack it, up there, and
sure.
better cut the liability. Don't let this guy go.
Mm,
And so what he did was, in a very unreasonable way, he asked me to lift a chair, right?
mm,
And I lifted the chair. I can't quite remember this incident actually. It was
okay.
recounted to me by my teacher.
Okay.
And then he failed me in that sense, right?
Mm,
But when my teacher, my PE teacher, I mean the person who run this project, and her name is Elizabeth Pui, and she has passed on, late Elizabeth Pui. When she saw this report, she found it to be so unreasonable.
mm,
And she knew me, and she felt that, no, Alvin should be able to hack it. Why such a. And she fought for me.
mm,
Long story cut short, eventually I made it to Nepal. And that expedition opened my eyes to the third world country.
mm,
That expedition opened my eyes to people who are 100 times poorer than us, and we were not well off. I mean, that was 1984, yeah.
yeah.
But certain joy and happiness exude from their eyes, and that was a big dichotomy in
Mm,
terms of thinking, because when you grow up in a poorer family in the industrial age in Singapore,
mm,
parents, right? Parents and teacher will always encourage you, work hard, study hard, get good grades, and then you can land a good job. What is a
yep.
good job? High paying job, good benefits,
Mm,
has prospect for promotions, and eventually, you earn a lot of money, you drive a big car, you have a
mm,
big house. That is called successful. That
yep.
will then give you the happiness and joy. So when I was a young man and trekking in Nepal, and you sit with Porter, and you sit with with the Nepalese who are so poor, they have very little material comfort of any sort, and then you experience that joy from them and that laughter from them. It kind of shakes you in a way that, hey, maybe we haven't got it right.
Mhm,
And that shift and sometimes all you need is something comes along. It's Newton
yeah.
third law and first, second, third law, right? The force, the object will go along the same trajectory, until such time when other force come along and kind of change the trajectory. And
Sure.
that was a moment of reckoning. I didn't figure everything out, to be frank, at that point in time. It just need a little jog, and it kind of like send me into a new trajectory of explorations and questionings. And I think sometimes that is really important. And this teacher of mine has shown me, has guided me to give me that opportunity to start a whole new exploratory
Sure.
journey.
Okay.
And yeah, sometimes it's something that happened in 1984. It cascades to and shapes and the way life unfold. I think all our life unfold from those little touch moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, and I think
Well, thanks for asking me to
yeah,
recall this
no
fond,
worries, no
fond
worries. Yeah, yeah,
memories.
it is because like for especially for youth, right? I think we do underestimate the value of exploring or just being curious lah, about things. Where like you said, we just limit ourselves to say that it's practical to do this, to do that. But like you said, sometimes in those moments, that trajectory where you divert off the path
Mm,
and something or someone just says certain things or you experience certain things and it gives you that spark of inspiration,
mm.
to live perhaps a more quality life or to live, more purposefully lah, like you did. So
I
I,
would say that
yeah.
maybe more colorful and more purposeful is because now you're open. Now
Mm,
you're open to trying route A, and you're also open to trying route B and route C because the curiosity component is there, right?
mm,
So you will be in what if this what does this door open to?
yeah.
And then when you open one door, then in front of you there are three other doors.
Mm,
Then you say that why don't I try A, B, and C
yeah.
again? And it kind of gives you a kaleidoscope, and that is what I think colorful life means. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, speaking of a colorful life, I think you went on to, of course, I think serve in the Navy, not in the Navy, with the Force for a period of time. You graduated with a degree in which computer science, is it?
Yeah, computer science and physics and computer science. I applied for a scholarship. I was thankful that the SAF, Singapore Armed Forces, awarded me an
Mm,
overseas scholarship. It's an overseas merit scholarship. And I went on to London University for my overseas graduate. I mean,
sure,
for my undergraduate degree course, which then opened up another Pandora of colorful
sure.
opportunity because I got to travel a lot in
Yeah,
Africa, in Europe, and living abroad is a whole new
experience.
mind-opening and
Mm,
heart-opening experiences.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and I think what I remembered or learned from you is that you were not bitter about any of those experiences. They may not have been, I would say, ideal in some cases, but you took every experience as a learning opportunity to develop certain skill sets, certain thinking, and all those eventually led you to start or rather venture into entrepreneurship because you felt, in your words, constipated with ideas, right? At a
Yeah, yeah.
certain period. So, because you share that transition into entrepreneurship.
Yeah. When you are very curious and when you have lots of ideas, it can be stifling doing one job,
Mm,
right? So let's think about a career as in employment, right?
mm,
If you're employed to be an accountant, the organization pay you a salary to be an accountant. That's it.
yeah,
It's a functional role. All jobs are functional role, right?
yeah,
And if you are a salesperson, all you do is you sell. I mean, the KPI will be how much product you sell, right?
yeah,
And if you are a HR person, you look after other people's payroll and benefits and all that. So every job is a functional role, right?
mm,
Um, Now, I'm not against job, but I would say that if you like doing a job, but please go ahead and do it. But if
mm,
you have lots of ideas and a lot of curiosity, you like to experiment things and how to make things better and all that.
mm,
And if you're not a boss, then you can get very stifled.
yep,
And I felt stifled and that's why in the early, after having gone through job for a few years, I decided that perhaps I'll be happier if I can venture out and be my own boss, do my own business. Then I could experiment and try things out, and nothing is going to stop you because now you define your own parameter, you define your own boundary.
sure.
And if you define no boundary, then everything is possible, right?
Mm, mm,
And
okay,
that is fun, yeah.
okay. Yeah, in fact, I want to ask about that, because yeah, like you said, not everybody will eventually go on to be entrepreneurs. However, certain tenets or values in entrepreneurship can be applied in any circumstance, right? And some people they work better as intrapreneurs, which means that they innovate within the company, and they
Also, yeah.
right and they enjoy doing that. So I'd like to ask, right? Do you have any advice for I would say budding entrepreneurs for them to progress in their entrepreneurship journey?
So yeah, okay. There's the social entrepreneur aspects of it, and there's entrepreneur, yeah.
Mm.
And being an entrepreneur literally means that you go out there and solve problems.
Mm.
Whenever there's a problem around human, then there's an opportunity, right?
Right.
Provided you can create a solutions that solve that problem, right?
Mm.
And person with ideas, person with lots of curiosity, you have inventive imaginations of how to solve problem.
Yeah.
These are good attributes to lend yourself useful in the marketplace.
Mm.
In other words, you can create either a product that will solve a certain problem or create a service to solve a problem, right? And to be an entrepreneur, what is really important is to have that sustainability mindset,
Mm.
right? And sustainability would then means that whatever product that you make or service that you create, it will have a certain value, and the value will then translate into finance numbers, right? You sell the product or service in exchange, so it's a fair exchange.
Yeah.
People have a problem, they have money, and they use the money to solve their problem. They buy your product or buy your service.
Mm.
And on your side, you will then have that sensibility of how do you manage the money that comes into you and get out to create a product or to for all the costs, you know. And so financial ability is quite important, and the ability to communicate is really important, and the ability to project manage is also equally important.
Mm.
And by and large, to be an entrepreneur is it can be frightening for a lot of people, because most of us are not trained to be entrepreneur.
Yep.
Most of us are trained to do a job. That's
Yep.
a whole education system, right?
Yes.
They spend so many years training you to be an accountant or to be a doctor and to be good in your function, but
Yep,
you're
definitely.
never good in the general overview of things, right?
Mm.
So if someone who is really, really good with an accountant would not know how to do marketing, but someone who study for so many years in marketing would not know how to do accounting. So
Mm.
yeah, it's our education system is not tuned to train us to be all-rounder, rather is training us to be job seeker
Of
rather than
course.
job creator. An entrepreneur is a job creator, right?
Mm.
So there's a little dilemma
Mismatch
over
lah.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those who wants to be an entrepreneur, you got to be inquisitive, curious enough to do a lot of your own self-learning, self-reading,
Yeah.
or seek out mentor. I think
Okay.
seeking out a mentor and then walk in his footstep or her footstep
Mm.
would be the fastest way to hone your overall skill to become a good entrepreneur.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. I have mentors in different businesses, right? And just speaking to them for 30 minutes, right? It
Yeah,
makes such a
you
huge impact because they can
you will
see things that I
shortcut you
cannot
for
see.
like 5 years of your work, you know.
Right? But of course, you still need to put in the work. But it's
Of
smart
course.
work, right? It's smart work, and I think, in fact, talking about that, right, being inquisitive and having a system to kind of train you as an entrepreneur, because schools is all about standardization, right, not personalization. So, do you have any advice for budding entrepreneurs or anybody that wants to develop themselves personally? Like self-development is a big thing for you, right? How do they go about doing this? What mindset should they have? What avenues should they go to?
I think today we live in a world that knowledge is not going to be a hidden thing anymore,
Mm.
right? If you think about it, 50 years ago, there's no internet, there's no Google. Only the rich enough people would then be able to afford to buy a set of encyclopedia at home. Do you remember that time? I do not know. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
when I was young, internet was not super developed yet. Yeah.
yeah. So knowledge become a secret weapon, right?
Mm.
That is the multiplier, right? That's a magic key, lah.
Mm.
Yeah. But today, knowledge is no longer that. Knowledge is a common commodity for poor and rich people. The only difference is whether you are inquisitive enough to want to find out, and whether you are disciplined enough to sit there and Google and watch some of this YouTube thing. And YouTube is a fantastic gift to human, I think. Yeah. Because you can literally learn from the YouTube. There are videos that teach you how to bake a cake,
Yeah.
to how to plan your
Everything.
business,
Yeah.
to how to make a bomb even, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So inquisitiveness is a power, right?
Mm.
But if you say that I want to start a successful business, but I'm not willing to do anything, tough luck. I
Mm.
think it'll be very tough. Yeah. It-
Okay.
so self-development is something that is innate urge, you know,
Mm.
and human are born to like nature. You look at the trees that are outside, right? Trees will forever grow. You will forever grow a little by a little, reaching out to the sun in the sky.
Mm.
You'll never reach the sun, but it will forever grow bit by bit. Right? And so nature has it crafted that way. We are designed that way.
Sure.
So growing and self-developing and becoming, expanding and becoming more from our experiences, our knowledge, and our curiosity is programmed into us. Stagnating would be in the opposite direction, going towards death. I think there's tremendous joy in growth. And if you can grow more, then you can be more successful entrepreneur. And if you are a social entrepreneur, you can do more good to helping to solve more problems, social problems, and meet with social causes in the marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah. I think growth is intentional. John Maxwell likes to talk about that. The first law of growth is intentionality, and
Mm,
in your words, is being inquisitive to learn and to equip yourself. I think one aspect is learning, another aspect executing, which I think you talked about as well. If you just learn and don't do anything, then the learning is also compromised. The learning is
mm,
accelerated when you're actually executing, and you can reflect back on the experience as well. I think that's what entrepreneurship appeals to me in that sense, because it
mm.
allows me every day to grow, to face challenges, and just grow as a human being, I would say, and also help other people as well.
Yeah, I think firstly, you got to be curious about more things
Mm.
because curiosity will then lead us to explore, read up,
Yeah,
find out more from Google, find out, watch more YouTube video and read more, go to the library and ask people who have been there, done that. Right?
yeah.
So that is the intellectual part of things only. Then the
Mm.
second thing is the experiential part, where you got to roll up your sleeve, willing to plunge into it and take actions, and do something, right? And from there, you fail, this thing work, this thing doesn't work, and by doing that, it couples in the intellectual and your experience, so
Mm.
the mind and the body comes together, and then you kind of get the. So it's a little bit swimming, right? The
Mhm.
coach will tell you you got to bring your
Yeah.
hand in, you move this way and move that way. So you
Mm.
got it intellectually figured out, but you still can't swim, right?
Mm.
But the only until you plunge into the water and you try to match what you know intellectually with the experience of your body, and then you gain the efficiency and you finally got it working, right? And finally, to gain mastery, I would then suggest you teach it to others, because
Mm.
teaching a subject will then gel the intellectual part and the experiential part and make self-awareness of what you know, what you do not know, and what you kind of how you got to know from not knowing, and then become an integral whole within you. Then you can give it away as a nice gift to other people,
Okay. Wow, that's a great transition into our next segment, which is about giving back. And I think as someone that has used your experiences to impact hundreds, if not thousands, of lives,
Ah,
right? Okay.
I'm
I
overly
forgot to
flattered.
ask you. I forgot to ask you one question before that, right? Maybe just two quick questions, right? What is some of the toughest periods you have faced as an entrepreneur? What are some toughest periods you have faced as an entrepreneur? And what's your mindset in overcoming that?
one of the toughest thing probably is communicating an idea and getting having that influence, the power influence to 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 gather resources, and the resources could be human, it could be finance, it could be connections, it could be material. Yeah.
Yeah.
In both my my business so-called, as well as my social entrepreneur endeavors. Yeah. Um, we sometimes when we communicate, we are transmitting from our own perspective.
Mm.
You may be transmitting apple, but the other guy listening to you may receive it as an orange.
Mm.
It happens all the time, right?
Okay.
Right. So this is how conflicts happen, and this is how the world is in today's terrible shape. Right, war happens, and so it's a miscommunications of ideas and notion and messages, right? And I learned that sometimes you have very good intention, you may have a very good idea that works, but if you're not careful and skillful enough and authentic enough to communicate it to the best of your ability, and sometimes despite your best ability, right? Uh, the receiving end of it is misconstrued, and that if it leads to no action, that's one thing. At least it does no harm. But if it leads to backfiring, then it creates more conflict and more energy dissipated into solving unnecessary problem that was born out of misunderstanding.
Okay.
So this is one area that I learned through my my many projects, business
Okay.
and also social enterprise.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, to be avoided and to be more skillful at.
Okay. And perhaps one tip, I know this is an entire topic by itself, right? Perhaps just
Yeah,
one tip
yeah,
to help people to ensure that what they communicate is what is received. Of course, it can't be 100%. In
yeah.
communications, we call it fidelity, which means how much of the message is passed across to the other person. But how can you, or what tip would you give, right, to ensure that that fidelity or that communication is
You know,
maximized?
you mentioned John C. Maxwell just now, and he
Yeah.
has a book that says, everyone communicates, but very few connect.
Mm.
And, communicating is just talking. A lot of time is just talking or writing email, and now
Yeah.
even more dangerously, you could be texting, and there are a lot of shortcuts.
Mm.
And you notice that everyone know about this, right? That you can ask a very innocent questions, but the other guy may read your innocent question as a sarcastic remark, for
Mm.
example. And this is how simple thing like that, right? um, I think a few ways to kind of minimize this would be, first and foremost, is not um, don't be overly uh, overly selfishly concerned about what you have got to gain and what you want from somebody else.
Okay.
Right? Is to be able to walk in the other person's shoe, wear the other person's spectacle, and look around the other person's from the other person's viewpoint,
Okay.
and understand his predicament, and understand his needs, understand what might be troubling him, and what might be his dreams, what might be his wants, right? And talk from that connectedness level, would be a much, I think it's a big step forward to minimizing misunderstanding. Of course, language is a really poor, uh, is really poor because every word has got multiple meanings, and
Mm.
that's sometimes it writing is, it doesn't conjure the intonations and the feeling from the speaking, for example,
Yeah.
right? So if I just type,
Okay, I think we will transition into the next segment because I think this is interesting to explore, right, between developing countries and modern countries. I think the way they respond and the way they react to you is also quite different, right?
mm,
And let's talk about that. So I know you have a lot of social entrepreneurship ventures overseas where you go and live with them. You don't just go and then you don't just go there and then you leave. You actually mentor them. You keep in touch with them. You educate them. You give them opportunities to grow. And you have done that in Thailand, in India, in Africa. So perhaps, right, in summary, and could you maybe just share some experiences living with them? How is it different from modern life, right? And what are the distinctions or the insights you have got from interacting with them?
Actually, it's the same. I think all human everywhere
Mm,
are the same,
mm,
right? Whatever color, whatever culture, country, I think we all want the same thing. Firstly, to meet the basic needs of survival,
mm,
then be involved um, in some kind of meaningful, purposeful works that would that would that would bring them contentment, satisfactions, and be rewarding as well, right? Um, and then finally, to actualize the innate potentiality, so that in this short lifetime, we finally will get to bloom like a flower,
mm,
and then before we wither off and die, and then that's it, bye bye, right? Right. And in my travel, I feel that they are all the same. It's just that in in certain country where the divide is very much greater,
mm,
like in India, in Africa, the have a lot more than you and I put together times a million times, right? And then, but the have not have next to nothing.
mm,
So that that situation actually allows some of us, if we choose to, it's not a must, if we choose to, and it's not about me going to help them. Actually, it's a way of that situation drawing me there to be helped by them
yeah.
also,
Mm,
right? So the context of that society, the context of these children in Africa, allow me a chance to flower in the way that I'm designing my life to flower. In other words,
okay.
so it is two hands coming together,
Right.
right?
Okay.
I'm not nobler
Yeah.
that I go there to help them, right? And I go in there, but I go in there with some of the experiences and resources that
Yeah.
they that I can harness. Yeah, in that sense, yes, I'm helping them, right?
Sure.
In the process of that project, of the campaign, or the project,
Mm,
or in the process of helping them, so called, they allow me to play a certain role that I could not play had I choose to do it in Singapore, for example. Yeah,
sure.
then it helps me to be that better person, and it also helps my friends who are supporting my effort
Mm,
to be that parent to the African children,
yeah.
be that resource provider to the African children, be that donors to the African projects,
Mm,
that 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 has a little ecosystem here, that all the players are like an orchestra that is co-creating that music
right.
together, that's
Right.
putting
Right.
together. Yeah. So everybody is being helped. So
Yeah.
the donor is being helped because he has excess money, but
Mm,
rather than spending the money on an expensive uh, Michelin star restaurant, he could use the same amount of money and help 5 children for the whole year,
mm,
right? And that gives him tremendous satisfaction, and perhaps much more prolonged and permanent form of satisfaction compared to a Michelin star meal,
sure.
dinner for one
Okay.
night, right? So that is that is how this whole thing kind of like come together.
Mm,
If I may kind of like give you a long, this is a long explanation of,
okay.
because a lot of people have that notion that,
Mm,
oh, you are a social
I'm more
entrepreneur,
noble,
you're
right?
so
Yeah.
noble, you
Okay.
are
Okay.
so great, you're going there like a savior to save people.
Yeah.
No, it's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that actually because you mentioned the word co-creating.
yeah,
Co-creating. So that stood out to me a lot. And like you said, we cannot go in thinking that we are a savior or we are there to save them now. It's really about co-creating and providing whatever information you have and expertise you have to help them to blossom in their context, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. And in doing so, we're also enriching ourselves and our experiences such that we can take the lessons back or in whatever form to actually serve in other communities. And I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful how you actually put it. And I know you took a year-long trip in 2011 to Thailand, India, to different places just to sit and live with them, right? And live with them and experience life together with them. And I would like to relate this story that you shared with me once
Mm.
about how I think a farmer in Thailand or a fisherman in Thailand was sitting beside you along the river, and he told you that we need to stop fishing. We need to stop fishing because the river is tired, right? And the way he used that metaphor, right, to talk as if the river is alive, the
Yeah.
consciousness they have towards the environment, towards that's perhaps something that you won't experience in the modern society, you know.
Precisely. Yeah. So
So
the story goes that I was with
yeah,
the co-founder of my Tigerland rice farm in
mm,
Thailand, Chiang, and he was he was teaching us farming
mm,
rice in the paddy. And after a good morning of hard work and lunch, he brought us to the river.
mm,
Uh, and the moment I stepped in the river with my daughter,
mm,
I noticed fishes were swimming around our lake.
sure,
Um, you know, we are city born, city bred.
mm,
You see fish, you think of food, right? So the first
yeah,
question I popped to him was that, oh, so many fishes. He's a Thai farmer who doesn't speak very good English, so I tend to use very simple words like,
okay,
oh, so many fish, you catch, eat, right?
mm,
And he struggled for words to kind of like respond to me,
mm,
and but eventually his response is basically this: that, oh, no fishing
mm,
there to there, yeah,
mm,
the stretch of the river, right? And it says that river very tired,
okay,
must let river rest.
mm,
So from for X number of years, we farmer decided no fishing,
mm,
let river rest.
okay,
Wow, they respected the river like a lady
mm,
that provides them with the water and with food. And while the lady river look after the human must look after the river.
mm,
So when it's time to rest, they must co-decide. Well, they don't need the council or the government to pass a law, the police to come and catch them, right?
mm,
They just decided that they have to let the river rest and let the fish
mm,
multiply again. I thought such eco-consciousness
mm,
is lost. We have lost it.
mm,
We live in Singapore, and
mm,
for the viewer of yours who are from other country, Singapore is a very beautiful city. Almost everything is man-made. Every tree is man-planted, right? And we have beautiful gardens and flowers, right? But how many of us walk along those roads and really
take it
personify our
in, yeah,
surrounding in that sense, right? We
mm,
respect all this, like, no, we are born into it, so we don't kind of like feel anything
mm,
about it. How
sure,
many of us would would sit around and look at the star and talk about the star?
mm,
We don't. We are too functionally attuned to work, business, life.
mm,
And I think that is a sense of awe that we have lost,
mm,
that magic of nature we have lost. Now imagine
sure,
if we can reconnect back to nature. And I think we will look at rubbish very differently.
mm,
We will look at throwing away or using another piece of plastic just to wrap food for once and
yeah,
throw away. We will, we will have a whole new meaning associated with all this behavior. And I
yes,
think eco-consciousness is a very important, this is something that I would like to architecture and
mm,
create more experiences to help to level up this. Because
mm,
if every one of us can level up this,
mm,
the earth will have a better health state.
mm. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Uh, Yeah, I mean, listening to you, I forgot about the questions I wanted to ask. Uh,
Sorry,
would you
I
say
get
also,
so.
would you say also that perhaps the last question on this, right, would be what has been the greatest satisfaction in the process of journeying with these with people, right, from different countries and how co-creating with them? What has been the greatest satisfaction for you?
Manifesting that which you have visualized crazily at the very beginning. So the process of transforming thoughts and idea into reality, into manifesting out into precious experiences in every individual is tremendously important. Um, yeah, allow me to kind of say a little bit thing. Tigerland Rice Farm was created as a rice farming experiences for the city folks, for the city born, city bred families to go and just have a feel about planting rice in the paddy field. And I'm sure many of them would then have some of these aha moment about, wow, river tired. You know, the sort of things that we talked about just now.
Sure.
And if they come back and they can appreciate rice and they can appreciate farmer, the worthiness and the significance of farmer. And I think as these children were to grow up into responsible adult, into important decision maker, as a business leader, as a community leader, they would then create and make decisions that will be very positive towards environment and towards a farming, towards agriculture, towards not wasting food and that sort of things, right? And the African children is another breed, right? They are from the slum. They are abandoned children. They are orphans. They are destitute kids, no? And they get rescued to Children's Garden Home, uh, which we could put a link to at your podcast now. That Children's Garden Home is a home where it's a collection of all these children and they grow up together. Now, if I could work with some of these kids and help them, in the sense, help them to be skillful about entrepreneurship, to be skillful about creating solutions that will the serve to solve problem in their marketplace, then they would become self-sufficient, they would become self-reliant, and they would then turn around and help more of the slum people to step up. So it is a way of long-term poverty eradication, if you want to call it that way. You want to call it another way is to allow these kids who have got next to nothing to dream the impossible and to manifest it out. And now, if a few of these slum children were to grow into the next generation successful entrepreneur, then it will empower a million other kids to say that if they can, it's just that Leonardo can, why I can't?
Sure.
And if these few slum children were to can go on and live a good life, and it will give the permission for others to dream big and give them the step by step, and they can walk in their footsteps. So these are the things that, you know, is crazily imaginative and is maddening visions. But it fuels a certain amount of passion in the people who are involved in it, in some of the friends who are supporting me in my effort, in the children who are transforming themselves to become the best that they can be, to be the flowering of these kids. So these are what that kind of, like, you know, that kind of excite me and kind of define my life as that flower or blooming of that flower that I to bloom one day. Yeah.
Sure. No, I love how we come full circle.
I hope it makes sense to you.
No,
Yeah.
it does. It does. I will
I'm
put
just
into words
rattling off whatever that comes to my mind.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, I'll listen all day because that's you, right? That defines me. It's great that we come full circle. We talk about designing our lives and manifesting and creating, and it's exactly what satisfies you in this process is that you are Leonardo da Vinci. You know, perhaps gave you a dream that hey, it's possible. You took that, you ran with it, and now you're passing on that dream to all the kids, all the people that you're serving, and they are going to take that seed, blossom it, and they're going to pass it on to the people in the community. And I think that what is also excites me. You can see that I'm excited talking about it because that is also what I desire for myself as well. Yeah, so that ripple effect is amazing. Okay, great. I think it's about time, but I guess maybe we will extend a bit because I want to ask you a bit about leadership. Okay, and I want to ask you
Leadership.
about about connecting with people, because you connect across so many different cultures, races, faiths. So I just want to ask you, right, like what is leadership to you, lah? Okay, let's talk about one question. What is leadership to you, and how can you become a better leader?
It's a big question that take the it's a podcast.
Oh yeah, okay, never mind. Let's do it. Let's do a okay. Maybe answer in a short one, and then we'll do a part two, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that the leader is someone who, by his own living his own life, is able to garner a certain respect from other people, that they are willing to march the journey with you. And a precondition to that would then be, and we heard it, we read it in books and about self-leadership, right? So leadership has two aspects. One is you got to lead yourself. In other words, if every day you don't believe that you can do anything, you are not a leader for yourself. You can't even lead yourself to make things happen, right? Not to mention about leading other people. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So the first follower must be ourselves. Myself, I'm my first follower. If I can motivate and inspire myself to do things and manifest reality from my own idea to manifest something, right? And then through that process, automatically, if there's a reason for you to lead others, right? Not necessarily you have to always lead others, right? You can lead yourself and make yourself a good life. But if your entrepreneurship, we talk about entrepreneurship, you rarely an entrepreneur succeed all by himself. An entrepreneur always succeed with a team. Today, there's no Superman. But there is a Superman in every single individual. There's something super in every individual. And if you can kind of like attract, recruit, enroll a group of people coming together and allow each one of them to shine their best, then it becomes a symphony, right? You have the trumpeter, you have the cellist, you have the violinist and all, right? And that requires an amount of leadership. It's like LKY, right? LKY handpicked. LKY is a collector of talents. He collected from Goh Keng Swee to Philip Yo to all the so many, right? And then he created it in such a way, he organized it in such a way, it's like a symphony, it's a country symphony, where the best person to play a certain role is given the full empowerment to play that role in that sense, right? And I think that is also one dimension of leadership, knowing who to put in the bus, in the right place in the bus, so that the bus can go far, right? And can fast as well in that sense, right? With as little breaking down as possible. So that's one aspect of it. And I would say that a good leader would necessarily be some kind of visionary in some aspect. A visionary make a leader. A proficient and efficient person make a good manager, right? A manager would just manage based on things that's been told to him. But a leader would need to lead with a certain of madness and certain of daring, certain of courage, certain of bravery, like a lion, and you pounce at something without knowing whether it will succeed or not, but you're going to pounce on it anyway. So it's a leap of faith of kind of things, and that's another dimension of leader, I would say. There are many other aspects of it, but I would say that these are the rawness of a leader.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing about that. And I think how people can, if you're listening to this podcast and you do value leadership, I think reading will really help a lot. John Maxwell's books are very good for leadership. And of course, the first person you need to lead is yourself. I know there's one saying, I think it was Admiral, a Navy SEAL, he talked about, you want to go out and change the world, the first thing you must do is make your bed in the morning. And sometimes I'm still working on that sometimes. So I hope that gives you all some perspective. But I think
leadership is not something you can intellectualize. And you can intellectualize it, or you can read 10 of John C. Maxwell's book and many others really good books, you know, and then you can give a lecture about it. Yeah, but it will come across, I would say, empty. The vibrations and the power, the punch, you know, leadership is something you live
up to.
You exude. You're not necessarily trying to convince people, but
Sure.
people get convinced just by being
Okay.
near you in that sense, you know? Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm definitely
Wow.
maybe get you back on a next another episode to just talk about this topic. I'm sure. You know, really, I think so. We should do that. But I guess today we almost come to the end. You know, just one last question that I like to ask all my guests is that what does resilience mean to you?
Many words like never give up, but I would say before the never give up, resilience come about only when you have a very, very clear end state in mind. You know, a visualization like LKY, he has a visualization of a better Singapore in all its vivid colors and sound and shape and whatever, right? So in other words, it's for each one of us is the stronger a visualization of what construct a better future for yourself, what construct the full flowering of your life, so-called, then the more sure-footed you are in taking that journey. However, every journey is the same. The moment you take the first step, you're bound to kena stone. Yeah, you're bound to get rocks in front of you, bound to get failures in front of you. And resilient, I like the way you have said it to the African children, you know, in my invitation to you. Is you never know whether you're resilient unless you have failure. I love that. And I think that is so true, right? You can say you are resilient all the while, but unless the context of the situation calls for a test and you pass the test, then you're not resilient.
Yep.
But the tenacity and the persistency and the amount of energy that makes you to want to overcome the failure comes from the drawing of the force that comes from your visualization of you call it a goal, you can call it a target, or you can call it a visualization, the visions, right?
Sure.
Because that is going to draw and give you the fuel to overcome that. So the mindset and that tenacity to overcome it will build up this resilience. And I think resilient is a fantastic word. I love your Rebound with Resilience project, the campaign, or your this thinking, you know, this way of life, you know, because I think resilience is something that will continuously grow like a snowball.
Yeah.
Provided you keep allowing yourself to overcome failure after one another. And after a while, the snowball becomes so huge. In other words, your resilience becomes so fantastic that no obstacle will ever be able to stop this snowball in its track. Hallelujah. Wow. And I think that would be a full flowering of a humble human.
Thank you, Alvin. I guess with that, we have to end this particular podcast. I think it's a fitting end. All of you, I hope that you have that. Remember that you have that seed within you, and you intentionally flower it to become a blossoming tree. All right. So, Alvin, you want to say goodbye to them and just say.
Thank you very much, and to whoever listening in, I'm thank you for being a part of our life. We treasure the connection very much, and we just hope that some of this energy that is shared, take whatever amount that you think would be befitting for your own flowering.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Yes, and we're going to put links to Alvin's Facebook pages and some of his work, social entrepreneurship work. If you think that you want to connect with him, go ahead. You want to support, sponsor certain kids, also, you know, you can inquire about that directly with him. All right, with that, we've come to the end of the podcast. Till next time, stay resilient and stay healthy. All right, see you. Bye.
See you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.